So I want to begin today's video with a moment of gratitude. That last video shared a very vulnerable time in my life, a vulnerable time in my marriage, and the outpour of love and support from you guys has been nothing short of humbling. Thank you so much to every one of you. It is very interesting that as humans, social beings, we do not like to share the less than perfect parts of our lives, which is truly unfortunate because I think that we deprive ourselves of so much. I know that I have deprived myself of so much by not being more vulnerable, by not sharing and embracing this less than perfect parts of my life. I am definitely challenging myself to be more vulnerable, more open. And I think for me, I tend to be more vulnerable at the end of the journey as opposed to when I'm going through. So I want to definitely do a lot more of just being open as I go through things in life, because really, like, these things, this is our journey, the good, the bad, the ugly, the bad, all of it together. That's what makes our life's journey. So definitely I think we all need to do a better job of embracing all those different parts that come together to make our story. Again, thank you so much. I really appreciate you guys, and I just hope that this space continues to stand for that. That being said, for the new faces here, welcome. My name is Simioa. I am a writer, content creator over at houseofart.com. I am also a very recent brace face. Yes, by the time this video goes on next week, I will have had my braces for a week. So yeah, pretty new, still getting used to it. We're going to get into the braces at a much later time, but I bring it up today to say that I have been told that I sound different. So yeah, if things sound a little murky, it is the braces. We are going to blame it on the braces. And yes, I am also a new property owner. A bit of new happening right here. In the last video, I shared how my husband and I went from losing our main source of income 2 weeks after we got married to the financial testimony that propelled the purchase of our building. And in today's video, we will be picking up right where we left off, and then we will be tracking the journey that brought us here. I hope that we can finish all this talk today so that next video I can then show you the building itself, and then we can finally move on to reno. Yes, the fun stuff. Yes, we are currently doing some reno. We have done a bit of the reno a few months back when we first bought the building, and we are doing more of it now, literally like right now as we speak. I have been sharing a lot of that on my Instagram page. I have also created an Instagram page that is solely dedicated to, I guess, being more of a resource. A lot of people have asked me a lot of questions regarding the building and a lot of questions regarding the reno. So I've created that Instagram page that will just answer all of those questions, that will provide all that information. A lot of us watch a lot of HGTV, myself included, and we get all these great grand ideas, and we have no idea, like zero idea on how to execute. So I hope that that page will be a good resource for a lot of you guys. Even for me, there's still a lot of things that I don't know, a lot of things that I'm learning, and I hope that we can come together as a community and trade information, just get it going. So yes, if you are interested in something like that, into that Instagram page, you can follow right along. And if you just want the fashion content and none of that extra stuff, my main Instagram page, here it is. So yes, that all being said, let us get into our video. Picking up right where we left off, we went on a tour with Buchi, and the last house we saw on that tour actually made a very positive impression. Now, it is not the perfect house by any definition of the word, but it was a house that gave us enough confidence to want to take the next step. And so we got connected with a mortgage company and began the pre-approval process. Now in DC, like, houses go this quick. The pre-approval process took about a week. Needless to say, by the time we were ready to pursue that house, it was no longer on the market. Even though I knew that house was no longer available, even though I knew it was no longer an option for us, I still obsessively stalked the listing. Like, every day, multiple times a day, I would find myself there, but you would send us listings, and I would always go and compare what we've seen, what we've been sent to the house that we no longer have. I don't know why I continue to do that to myself. Just emotional torture. I do not advise or recommend that to anyone. Those are things that made this process emotionally draining for me. Please don't do it. You don't need to obsessively stalk houses the way that I did. But yes, I am sharing because that is truly what I did. And then one day, my bad behavior sort of paid off. I went on the listed and it looked like the house was back on the market. Now in this video, I don't want to bog you guys down with real estate jargon. You know, I think we might do a video in the future to address that. But just letting you guys know, this process of a house going off the market and coming back, completely normal. I think it happens twice in our story. But yeah, completely normal. Don't even worry about it. So yes, it looked like the house was back on the market. I reached out to Butchie like, what does this mean? Butchie reached out to the seller. I was like, yeah, the house is back on the market and we can make our offer. And so we did. They responded with an intent to accept our offer. Again, completely normal for them to do that. They wanted us to change a few things. I think it was like the closing dates. Maybe they wanted to push it forward or back a little bit. I'm not sure, can't remember. But yes, we looked like we were on track, looked like this was going to happen. And I think at that point, like HF and I were like thinking, you know, when we saw this house, we weren't even looking to buy. It might be a good idea to go view the house again with these new lenses that we have recently acquired. And so we scheduled a second tour of the house. We went there, we looked around. And then during that tour, HF noticed that the laundry room was weird. It wasn't wide enough for a side-by-side and it wasn't tall enough for a stackable. So we weren't sure what that situation was. We had Butchie reach out to the seller about that. They claimed it was a standard laundry space that they had in there. We weren't convinced, so to cover our bases, we put in a laundry contingency. And yeah, we've turned in our offer, everything was accepted, great, we were under contract, life is good. I think the next night, they sent us options of what they considered standard laundry units that would fit in that space. Now, a real standard laundry unit is usually between 3 to 4 cubic feet. They sent us 1.2 cubic feet. That is what they consider the standard of what will fit in that space. Less than half of a true standard. Now, when we got that and saw it, you know, we're like, this sounds small, but you know, I don't want to be dramatic. Like, who's going to walk away from a house because of a small laundry space? So it's like, you know, this might not be as bad as we think. Like, let's go to the store, let's see, you know, it might be something that we can make work. And so we went to the store. I remember it was like late at night. We probably went to like 5 to 7 stores. And at the end of the night, we actually did not end up finding 1.2 cubic feet. The smallest we saw was 1.8 cubic feet. And it was small. It was ridiculously small. So yeah, at that point, we realized that was not going to work. One, the laundry unit is in the basement. So like you have to go all the way downstairs to the basement to do your laundry. Like all those loads. Also like your water bill, your electricity bill. So yeah, that was not going to work for us. We reached out to the seller, well, through Butchie, and they started to think of options. And I think they reached out to their contractor as well, since it was a renovation, and they tried to like brainstorm options and what to do and, you know, all of those things. I should also mention at this point, you know, some of the things that we didn't really like in the house. One, basement. HF and I are Nigerian born and raised. The idea of basement to us is a little foreign, you know, we are not fond of it. This is not something that we grew up with. And I think when we think basement, we think like separation of space. And we're newlyweds, you know, we still spend a lot of time together, we still do a lot of things together. So separation of space is not something that is very important to us right now. I mean, sure, it's nice to have more space, but I think we would have preferred that space in other places in the house, not in the basement that no one will ever go to, that no one will ever use. Also, the main floor, I think for us, we would have definitely liked a little bit more space there, seeing that that is where we spend most of our time. And we also love to entertain, so it would have been nice to have like a bigger living room and like more connection, or, well, yeah, definitely like a better connection to the kitchen, like dining room situation. So those were things that we weren't really fond of in the house. The basement was definitely the big one. Like, it just felt like a wasted space to us. So yes, we had that, and when this laundry situation happened, we started to question if this was, you know, the house for us. We were no longer certain that, you know, we wanted to go with this house. I think all of this was happening on maybe like a Thursday, Friday, if I remember correctly. And then Friday night, well, more like Saturday morning, like 12:01. That's usually when the new houses come on the market, you know, if you're looking. Yeah, so 12:01 Saturday morning, the new houses came on, and there was one house, this house right here, that caught my eye. Beautiful house. It was higher, like price point, than the previous house, but it was so tastefully done. I was just like, you know what, I will pay that difference. Like, this house is worth it. I reached out to Buchi, sent it to Buchi, sent it to HF, like, look at this, you know, let's go see this house. So again, I saw it at like 12:01. We went to see the house at like 9 or 10 a.m. Saturday morning. By the time we got there, there were like 3-4 cars parked outside. So we knew going in, like, okay, this seemed like a house that would be very competitive. So we need to come correct for this house if we're going to, you know, get it. This was even before we even walked into the house. Then we walked into the house, we saw it, you guys can see it. It's a beautiful house and it's a 5-bed, 3-bath. It did not have a basement. When it had space in the ways that we wanted, you know, like the master bedroom. I like how it has like that separation from the other bedrooms. It was such a beautiful house. You know, we came out of that house, we're very excited. HF, this entire time I just been, you know, whatever my wife wants, very nonchalant about the entire thing. But he came out of that house and was like, yes, this is the house. Like, what do we have to do to buy this house? So yeah, we saw the house again on Saturday. On Sunday, we went and did an inspection so that when we turned in our offer, we could waive the inspection contingency. And just in an attempt to be a lot more competitive, I think our offer price for that house probably went, I think, like 30,000-40,000 above the list price. We really thought we had covered, you know, all the bases. Like, there was no chance that we're not going to get this house. We had done it all. And then Monday afternoon, we found out that we did not get the house. That was a very, very big blow. Very big blow. I like that I'm saying it now and I'm laughing, but I remember when this happened, man, I almost cried. Like, Jesus, like, I had already started to imagine ourselves in that space. Like, we really, really like this house, and it felt like such a big loss to us at that time. I think we got our bid by, was it like 5 or like 8,000, like something very little, you know, just like really, really, like, that's all it took for us to not get the house. But it's okay, you know. At least now I can say it's okay. It was not okay then. So yes, we're heartbroken at this point, but, you know, we still felt positive, like, okay, well, we didn't get this, but let's move on. Let's see what else is out there. So now we move on to house number 3. This house was centered around making the best first impression. Like, look at the pavement, look at that blue door, and then you walk in and it's this skylight. You know, it's just such a welcoming, such a grand entrance. And, you know, the rest of the house definitely has a lot of things that are working for it. And it also had a lot of things that were just not working. You know, the typical layout, you know, you have the main living floor, you may have a basement, and you have the first floor. That's typically what you will see. This house was weird in that the main living floor only had the kitchen, well, had the kitchen and 2 bedrooms. And then the living room was in the basement in addition to the 2 other bedrooms. This meant we were going to have to spend a lot of our time in the basement. And yes, for the 1000th time, we are not basement people. So we kind of went back and forth on that, deciding if we were willing to overlook that, because the basement wasn't dark, you know, like it had all this light coming through. But I think ultimately we decided we couldn't do it. And that was kind of the story with this house. I should mention right now that for the sake of time and based on the footage that I have, I am only choosing to highlight a few of the houses. I think overall we saw probably close to 100 houses, and then we put in, I want to say, close to 20 offers. So our journey is very atypical. So yes, we do not have time to go through every single house, and I do not have the footage for every house. If we're being 100% honest, you know, the footage that I have, I would say, is probably questionable, because I did not go in with the intention of sharing this way. A lot of the recording was just to have something to recap the day with, you know, go through and like watch the videos, like, oh, we liked this in this house and that in that house, you know, nothing nothing that was supposed to see the light of the day. But here we are. And yeah, that's kind of how house 3 crumbled, and we're moving on to the next house. Let me get myself ready, because this next house, let me tell y'all, this next house, whoo, child, this was the house, right? Now, as with a lot of big cities, it is extremely impossible to find a new build. New builds are like unicorns in DC. They simply do not exist. Everything that you see are renovations, you know, houses, older houses that have been renovated, that have been turned down and built up. But this one was a new build. In addition to that, it was a house that offered income potential. Now, at the beginning of our journey, we were interested in getting a house that offered income potential. Essentially a house that has an English basement. If you're not familiar with the concept of English basement, it's when you have the main house and then the basement has been transformed into its own independent unit, separately metered, has its own washer, dryer, its own entrance. So it's very popular in DC. What we quickly discovered is that houses with English basements were ridiculously expensive. And then the ones that were, you know, somewhat in our price range always felt like you were giving something up in your main living space to have that English basement. It just always felt like it was an afterthought. And so we, I guess, abandoned the idea of getting a house with income potential. And then this house, you know, as a new build, they went in with the intention of making it income generating. So it was not an afterthought. Like, everything was in its right place. It didn't feel like I was giving up anything in my own part of the house for the English basement. You walk into the house, like 10-foot ceiling. It was a beautiful house. Look at that kitchen with the 10-foot island. Like, I remember the first time I walked into the house, I was intimidated by the island. It's like, what am I supposed to do in this kitchen? Like, this is actually insane. Then you go upstairs and you have the skylight and you have the master bedroom with the long closet. You know, it was just such a beautiful house. It gave the exact amount of space that we needed in the way that we needed it. The main floor had the most space, and you go upstairs, it had the right amount of bedrooms that we wanted. You know, it was the perfect house. And then you go down to the basement, that English basement, that felt more like a first floor living space than it did a basement. This was not one of those English basements, someone cramped dark basement. No, this one, look at the windows, look at the entrance, you know, look at that kitchen. Yes, this was the house. It was perfect in every way. Not even perfect in every way. It was perfect in ways that we did not even imagine. It was the house that we did not even realize that we wanted until it was there. And so we thought we were finally done. We put in an offer, only to be informed that they had already accepted someone else's offer and that the house was no longer on the market. Yeah, that was probably the worst news ever. Like, I remember when this happened, we were just like, you know, we're done. We're like just like hanging up the hat at this point. Like, clearly buying a house right now is not for us. Like, this is not a thing. Like, I remember I was just in bed for like days, just watching Grays, like not doing anything with my life. Like, I needed time to get over the heartbreak. It was hard. Okay. Now, 2 days later, again, I was still in my bed watching Grays, sulking. Butchie calls me and is like, oh, what are you doing? The seller just reached out to me. Are you guys still interested in buying that house? Whew, Jesus wept. I was like, are we still interested in buying that house? Yes, sign me up, take my money. Yes, so same as the other time, the house came back on the market and they offered it to us. So we put in our offer, we got the house, we're on the contract, life is good, life is great. Every step was going according to plan. We started to like envision ourselves there, started to pick up furniture, started to think of some of the changes we wanted to make. You know, like everything was good, great. We were super excited, you know, we were sharing news with our friends, family, you know, everyone was counting down with us. 4 weeks on the contract, and then we had that random day when everything came falling down. I remember that day as clear as rain. Butchie reaches out to us and informs us that there was an extra requirements that we needed to fulfill to buy the house. No one revealed this requirement to us when we went under contract. It was not revealed to us in the 4 weeks that we had been under contract. Now, with 10 days to go, literally 10 days, they finally revealed this requirement to us. Yeah, our first reaction was just like, why didn't anyone do their due diligence? You know, like, how did this escape your, actually just escaped you guys for 4 weeks, you know. Again, this was not on Buchi's end. It was not aware either that there was a requirement. It was all on the seller's end. And when we first got it, like, we were obviously very upset. But you know what, we're just like, let's just keep calm. We have 10 days to go. Let's just do whatever it takes to make sure that we don't rock this boat. So we started to like run around and scramble and try to figure out how to fulfill that requirement. Unfortunately, despite all of our efforts, we could not fulfill the requirement, which meant, ladies and gentlemen, that we could not buy the house. Now, I should mention that throughout this process, the seller and their agent just had the nastiest attitude. You know, one, this was obviously your fault. This was your bad. You guys did not do your due diligence. You guys had this big information that somehow escaped you for weeks and you did not disclose to us. You know, you guys are the reasons we were here. You guys are the reasons we found ourselves in this situation. And not once did they actually apologize. They were just very nonchalant, very, oh, like, yeah, if you guys can't fulfill the requirements, and I guess you guys can buy the house, we'll return your EMD, and then you guys can be on your merry way. And for us is, that is not the solution to this problem. One, like, we are emotionally invested, but also like financially invested. At this point in time, we had decided to like invest more money than just the EMD that you guys had. Like, technically the EMD is our money that you guys were holding on to. We were always going to get that back, but there were a lot of other fees that we had paid that we were never going to get back if this deal fell through. So like, when you guys say, oh, we've done your EMD and like you guys can be on your merry way, I'm like, excuse you. Like, not even a simple sorry. Not like, they were just nasty people to deal with. And you know, we can continue to go back and forth, and they were again just unagreeable, just being nasty about it. And then one thing led to another and lawyers got involved. Yes, we got a lawyer. With the lawyer introduced, the main objective, at least I should say the initial objective, was to try to see if there was a chance we could still get the house. Like, we just like, the seller, they were nasty people, but we just really still wanted the house. Like, it was such a unique property. And think, like, besides all the other things that I've said about the house and that you guys have seen, it was also one of those that, even when compared to houses that were more expensive than that house, like, this house left them in the dust. You know, it just felt like such a huge loss. So with the lawyer introduced, the first thing was just like, let's just see if there's a way we can still get the house. Like, all that extra talk, let's just leave it right now and let's focus on getting the house. Unfortunately, that didn't work either. Even with the lawyer, there was still no chance that we could get the house. And now it was like, okay, well, our financial investment in this house, if this deal falls through, I'm going to need all of those things back. And so that became that became a thing. Like, we went in, we were not even looking to buy a house. We went in just looking to observe. Somehow we started to buy a house, and then somehow lawyers got involved too. Like, that was literally the type of journey that we had. You know, the type of luck that we had. I remember Bushir was always so confused, like, he doesn't understand this. Like, this is probably the most atypical journey that he has ever been on. Like, typically he hasn't seen like this many deals just like fall through. Like, literally did not make sense to even him, and he's the professional that's been doing this for a very long time. So yes, anyway, that was kind of what was happening with that house. I think up until the day when we got our EMD back, we were still, you know, somehow praying, like, you know, maybe something will happen and we'll magically get the house, you know, maybe that's a big testimony. But yeah, that did not really happen. We did not get that house. We did not get it, unfortunately. And then moving on to this next house, we saw this house, I think, right around the time when the previous house was falling apart. And this house, beautiful house. For me, like, as far as like the space is concerned, definitely a close contender to that previous house. The only thing this one did not have is that English basement. But you know what? For everything else that the house had going on, I'm like, I would take it. It had the nicest master suite of all the houses that we saw. Look at that living space. It also had, like, I think, actually no, it did not have the biggest living space. That previous house did. Like, that island was massive. This one too has a really huge island. Like, it is such a beautiful space. I like the double doors that take you to the deck. It had a big yard. We're not fond of yards still, you know. We're just not outdoor people. We like being inside in the AC. And then with a big yard is like the maintenance that comes with it as well, especially when we actually will not be using it. So I had a big yard. No, not big on that, but for everything else that this house had going on, we're like, yep, we will take it and then some. Such a beautiful house. But unfortunately, that other house, house number 4, screwed us over double time, because since we were still technically under contract for that house, we could not pursue this house. But she was explaining to us like there's a legality behind it, but you are prevented by law from doing that. So we ended up losing that house, and then we ended up losing this house because of the nasty people that were selling that house. At this point, we were done. Like, we were done. It was just, I cannot be subjecting myself to emotional boots on top house that we were not even really looking to buy in the first place. It just felt like it was too much. Like, every turn, it was just faced by different adversity. Like, you know, maybe this is not the time. Maybe this is a sign from God that we need to wrap this up. And, you know, we're just done. And then Buchi encouraged us, you know, it's like, yeah, your journey is atypical, but you know, this is life, things happen. We can't give up now. Like, let's give it maybe another month or so. And if things continue to, you know, turn out the way they've turned out, then maybe it will be time to move on. So yeah, you know, we decided, okay, you know what, let's give it another month. Let's see. In that month, we saw a lot of houses, put in a lot of offers, you know. Thinking back to it now, some of those offers we put in, I'm like, thank God they didn't actually work out, because I think we're starting to get to the point where it's maybe felt like we're just putting in offers just to put in offers. I don't even know what the standard was anymore. It was just rough. But yet, somehow, none of those offers got accepted. None of them. Like, I kid you not. It was just like, oh, you put it in. It's like, oh yeah, never mind. You guys didn't get it. Like, you guys didn't get it. You guys didn't get it. You guys didn't get it. It was, yeah, it was, I think at that point, we were even like desensitized to you guys not getting it, because we had heard it so much that it didn't even register as anything to us anymore. But yeah, that was that. We're coming up on the end of the month that we're giving ourselves. We're already like, okay, well, let's go and talk to our apartment complex and see about signing another year's lease. Clearly, we are going to be there. We're going to be here for another year. And then, one random day, stalking as usual, I came across a listing for this building. Now, I saw it. Again, remember, we had started off, like, oh, starter homes. And then we saw like some real like family houses. And now we're like, a building, okay? So it's like, it's different. It's a different level. So I remember like I saw it and then sent it to HF, was in the living room playing FIFA, I was in the room, sent it to him, and then nothing. Radio silence. After a few hours, I go outside, like, oh yeah, like I sent you a list, and like, did you see it? Like, what did you think? Just the normal way that we check in. And then it's like, oh, you mean that listing you said, oh, you actually meant for me to consider it, like, seriously? Oh, I thought you were just joking, because really, really, you have to be joking with me. So yeah, quickly shut it down. Like, this is not where we want to be. This is not this is not the price range at all. Like, to simmer down. So, that was that. That was the end of that. Shut down, nothing to it. So we continued on this, our never-ending journey of just no's and closed doors and just different type of adversity. And then I think maybe like a week after or so, I saw the listing again for this building. And then I shared it with him, and again it was like, yeah, still enough for me, dog. But I was just like, you know what, on our next trip with Buchi, I really want to go see, like, sure, like, we're not gonna buy it, but like I still want to see, like, I'm just curious as to what a multi-unit property looks like. Obviously this is not like an apartment complex with like hundreds of units, but still like something smaller. Like, I wonder what that setup looks like. So on our next trip with Buchi, we came to see the building. I remember when we walked into, even Buchi, I think, it didn't really register what we're coming to see. So we came in here and it's like, oh, it's a multi-unit property. And it's like, then like, it's like, oh, I didn't realize you guys were trying to look at things like this in this range, like, oh, we're not really looking, we're just here, we're just curious, So then we came in and started looking, and then the light bulb moment for HF and for Buchi, finally they saw the vision that I have technically seen since day one, but everyone is not on my level, so some people need to catch up, but it's okay, So we started to like walk around the building, and then everyone started like seeing the vision, doing the math. It's like, oh, you know what, this is actually not bad, like this is doable, like this is the idea, this is what can happen here. Like, everyone saw the potential. And then we thought about it some more. I think at that point HF was definitely a lot more agreeable to the conversation. We thought about it, went back and forth. I think with the multi-unit property, like, we knew that, or it registered that it was a good investment, but I think for us it's just like a good time to be buying a multi-unit property in a pandemic when apartment complexes are suffering and like doing whatever to make people stay. It just felt like it was a risky investment that was riskier because of the time. So, we kind of went back and forth, and, we decided, what, let's just turn in an offer. Like, our track record so far has not shown like that we were actually going to get this. Everything we are putting offer for up until this point had been rejected. So really, what are the chances that this one that is out of nowhere is the one we're going to get? So anyway, we put in the offer. Next thing, Buchi messages us like, oh yeah, you guys got it. Yeah, it's like, oh yeah, they accepted your offer. You guys ratified contract. But yeah, that happened. I remember the day this happened. We just like looked at each other like, oh wow, like, okay, that's weird. We definitely were not expecting to get this. We were not expecting that at all. So yeah, I guess this is a reality. This is a reality now. And then yeah, that's kind of how the journey began. I would say that even this journey, I don't want to go into a lot more detail because I feel like we already talked a lot about how atypical this journey is. But even this, like buying this building, was atypical again. It was, I think, like the bank struggled with appraising the value of the building because it's such a unique property in this space. They could not get a lot of other things to compare it to, so that was a process in itself. And then when the inspection came back, there were a few things that came up in inspection that needed to be addressed. So like going back and forth with the seller, that was also a process in itself. You know, the day that we bought the building, we actually did not know that we were going to buy the building. We had delays, probably like 2 weeks worth of delay at this point. We weren't even sure what was going to happen. And then I remember I was at work, it was maybe like 10, 11 a.m, but she called me. It's like, oh yeah, the seller wants to close today. I'm like, what do you mean? According to the conversation that we had, you know, a few days ago, we weren't due to close for maybe another week. So what do you mean the seller wants to close today? It's like, yeah, can you guys swing it? I spoke to HF. It's like, yeah, let's do what it do. I remember I left work early that day, I think like 2 p.m. to like drive home, and then we got ready, like literally, like you always think that, oh, the day that I'm gonna close, I'm gonna be dressed up and made up and this. Like I just literally like threw on like a t-shirt on top of like my pants, and you know, no makeup on my face, nothing at all, to rush down to the title company. And even then, like the document signing process, very interesting. Typically, like the bank will have been done, they will have sent all the documents to the title company, everything printed out, and you just, you know, you sign, you go through the process. For us, that was not the case, because again, the bank, they literally were processing the document as we were signing. So maybe they'll process one section, they'll send it to us, we'll sign, we'll sit there again and wait for however long it takes them to process the next section, then they'll send it to us, then we'll sign. Like everything, like no one went into that day thinking we were going to close. Like everyone was caught unaware, and then we all were just rushing to make it work that day. You know, it's kind of, what is that? Is it Stevens from Grace? Yes. I am obsessed with Grace. Clearly, how like the biggest day of your life, usually going to not knowing is going to be the biggest day. You know, that was literally what that felt like for us. We did not start that day thinking we were going to be building owners. I think we started that day not even sure what the future held as far as like the purchase of the building, and somehow we ended the day with the building. Yes. Yes, after what, 6 months, and you know, all those houses and all those offers and all that rejection. Yeah, I'm out of breath. a lot that's been said and shared and so. But yeah, this is really the story of how the building came to be. Yes, it was an unexpected blessing that we are very, very grateful for. I share this to inspire you guys, to just show like life can be very messy, but you know, we have to keeping on. And to me, it's just really like a testimony to God's work. I think when I think of this whole story, this whole situation, I don't have any other explanation except that it could have been God. Like, what are the chances that we got rejected as many times as we did, and then randomly got this one? Like, it just really makes no sense. I think when we pray and say like, God, direct our step, you know, this is kind of what it looks like. And for a lot of us, we expect that to be like a linear journey and to be clear and smooth. But maybe sometimes that's not always the case. You know, it's not a smooth road, you know, a lot of curves and bumps, but ultimately God knows to, you know, close all the doors that you don't need to be going through, and then the one that you need will get us there at the end of the day. So yes, I don't want to get too preachy on you guys, but yes, that is our story. Again, thank you guys so much for the love and support, for watching this very lengthy video with a lot of talking, but I am glad that we are finally done. And then next week we will finally see the empty house tour. Thank you. See you next time. Bye.